Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining our webinar on the Acronis Cyber Protect solution today. I'm not going to do a boring PowerPoint presentation, and obviously we're hosting the webinar on behalf of Secure U Technologies. My name is Eugene. I'm from a company called TechWise Solutions, and we are one of the main distributors in Sub-Saharan Africa for the Acronis solution, as well as several other cybersecurity brands. With regards to the Acronis Cloud solution, a few points to make mention before I get into the page is Acronis Cloud is a multi-tenant, multi-tier solution. So what that means is once we're into the solution, you'll be able to see that you have two different accounts. You have a partner level account as well as a client level account. The difference between the two is a partner level account gives you the ability to manage clients underneath yourself or partners underneath yourself, which is where the multi-tenant comes in. And this is sort of an infinite path where, from a technical point, you can have multiple clients and multiple partners underneath you, who in turn can have multiple clients and multiple partners underneath them. The only restriction would essentially come in is where obviously each person is billing a partner based on their billing structure, and that would get restrictive. But also for companies that have multiple branches, multiple entities, you're able to have a nice structure underneath your account and your tenant. I need to make note as well for the demo that I'm currently running this demo based on the Acronis beta solution. So this is their beta environment where I run the demos from. Sometimes there are certain features that are slightly different to the live solution. If we encounter anything like that, I will point that out. For the most part, though, it should all be consistent. And if you have a look here, you can see I've got several clients that I've loaded under myself. One of the nice things about Acronis is when you're loading a partner or a customer, it is actually a very quick and easy process. So as an example, if I want to load a client, I'm able to put in the customer name. I can select whether we're running a trial or whether we want to go straight into production. I can select whether the account is going to be managed by myself being the partner, or I can say, well, the partner is going to completely manage the solution themselves, and other than usage, I don't have any insight into their backups. I don't have any insight into their data, their backup plans, or anything along those lines. From a client side, once an account has been created, the client can also make that choice if they don't want the partner to have insight into their data. Obviously, if you're assisting the partner, though, you would select it as managed by service provider. You would then select an account which would be the primary account that would be created. And lastly, you would set up whether you're going to be doing a per gigabyte or per workload, which options are going to be available to the customer, and then obviously if there's any limitations that need to happen, whether that's how many workstations are being backed up, how many servers are being backed up, anything along those lines. The nice thing about this is at this point, an email would have been sent off to the client, and they would literally be up and running with the backup solution immediately, without requiring any infrastructure, without requiring any extensive planning, any extensive processes, and they could literally be backing their infrastructure up within 15 minutes, which is great. A few items to go, and I don't want to go too much in depth on the management side of things. Partners and clients alike are able to have users, multiple users that have different access rights within the solution. You're able to pull in-depth reporting. You're also able to integrate the Acronis solution into various different platforms, whether that's things like Enable, cPanel, WHCMS. However, you have several integrations, including if you use standard REST API, you can integrate using that. You have a full audit log as well. So anything that happens under the account is completely tracked, which means if a backup goes missing or a policy changes or whatever it might be, you're able to track that completely. Going into a client account, and like I said, it is multi-tenanted, multi-tiered. So when you're looking at a client account, you'll notice that they have exactly the same features. If we're going into a client account, you'll notice that they have exactly the same features where they can add their own users, they can pull their own reports, they can get a complete overview over who's done what within the accounts. And also you have a nice little dashboard that will actually show you usage within your own environment. So how many gigs you're using, how many advanced packs you're using, what workstations or servers you're backing up, and how much storage you're using. This is essentially from a management point of view, which if we want to actually look at how the solution works, we're able to go in there and manage the solution. And this is where the meat comes in. So straight off the bat, we're greeted by a very user-friendly dashboard. What's important and critical to note is everything in Acronis runs on a single pane of glass, which means that to achieve any task is no more than 3 clicks away, and you're able to do what it is that you're trying to do. The dashboard is easy to understand, even from a non-technical point of view, where anyone can look at this dashboard and identify if there's anything critical that needs to be addressed within their environment. So you can see there's a couple of reboots that are waiting to happen here. There's a critical update that's waiting. If there were any unprotected machines, I'd be able to see this, but I don't need to be too technical. And so even a CEO of a company can have access to this dashboard and immediately identify if they have any problems with their infrastructure and if they have any data that's not being backed up, and address that with the technical guy. Obviously, scrolling down, you'll be able to get a lot more information. So you can see there's a couple of critical items that went wrong there, but it's the ease of use and ease of understanding is the major selling point there. Threat feed is, and unfortunately there's no active threats now. However, what threat feed is it's a item that is going to identify if there's any threats that are relevant to your company or your infrastructure. So for example, whether that's a malware that's doing the rounds, whether that's a natural disaster, whether it's ransomware, whatever it might be, it's going to associate or let you know what that threat is all about, what you can do to fix it. And again, for the non-technical people, it will actually just have a button that you can select, and it will run whatever recommended actions there are within the Acronis sphere to protect you from that threat, so that you can know that you're safe from that threat. From a device point, Acronis supports over 20 devices. So if we have a look, whether we're backing up Windows or Mac, whether we're backing up our Linux server or our Windows server, even our mobile devices, Android or iOS, are able to be backed up and protected by Acronis. Whether we're protecting VMware or Hyper-V, or even some of these less well-known hypervisors, Acronis is also completely application aware. So if you're wanting to back up your SQL data, your Oracle data, even your 365 environment, you're able to back that up using Acronis. If you have a look here, again, very easy to understand. You can see all your devices. This is going to give you an idea of whether those devices are online or offline. Acronis has something they refer to as the Cyber Fit score, which is essentially a very nice metric to be able to tell at a glance if all the machines in your environment from a cybersecurity standpoint are cyber fit. If we click on that, it's going to kind of show you the metrics. So you can see I'm running an antivirus. I've got a backup solution. I'm running a firewall. I've got a VPN that I'm running. I'm not running full disk encryption, and I'm not blocking NTLM traffic. But that's going to now give me a score and let me know that from a cybersecurity standpoint, my score is good. You can have a look at other machines in the environment where the score is fair. Obviously, if you're missing one of these other features, you'll start seeing that is going to drop to a lower standard and let you know that you need to do something to attend to those devices and make sure that they're more secure than what they are. Disaster recovery I'll touch on in a second because it's an amazing feature, and I'll talk more on that in a second. And then you have when your last backup ran, when your next backup is going to run, and what protection plans you have associated with that device. You're also able to group machines, whether you're grouping those via department, via function, via specification, whatever it is. And once grouped, you can then apply protection plans to that group of machines instead of having to apply that plan to each individual machine. If we're having a look at a backup plan, so the first thing, we get to add which devices belong to that backup plan, which groups, however we're wanting to do that. We're able to name that plan, so we can say, well, this is going to be servers if we want. At the top here, it's going to show if we're running any advanced features on that plan. From a backup perspective, Acronis is a world-class backup solution. You're able to choose whether you're backing up the entire machine, whether you're whatever schedule you're wanting to run on, whether you're backing up to cloud or local storage. Whether you're backing up to cloud or local storage. What's nice about Acronis as well is, let's say I want to back up to 2 locations at the same time. I can choose to back up to my local storage, but also at the same time that I'm backing up to the local storage, also choose another location and back up to a secondary location as well. I get to choose my retention ratios. So how long do I want to keep the data? Encryption. This feature, there's a caveat here that if you're encrypting the data, that encryption is using military grade encryption. Not even Acronis can get into that data. So you need to keep that encryption password secure. What applications are you going to be encountering? So is it going to be MySQL or Microsoft SQL, Exchange, Active Directory, Oracle, or cPanel? And even if you want to change granular settings, you're able to do that and get a more advanced feel. Disaster recovery is literally the flick of a switch. So whether you're going to run disaster recovery or not. Antivirus or anti-malware. One thing that's important to note is you have your advanced anti-malware. It's actually looking at active running processes on your machine. It's identifying if that process is doing something that it shouldn't be doing. It will then stop that process and revert any data that might have been affected by that process using the active cache, which means if you have an incoming ransomware attack that is a brand new ransomware attack, Acronis is able to not only mitigate and deal with that ransomware attack, but also they're able to make sure that you don't lose any data from that ransomware attack. URL filtering. It's a very cool feature where you're able to ensure any devices that are protected with Acronis are protected as well from not being able to go to dangerous or potentially dangerous websites. So you can just block certain categories and say, well, I don't want my users going to illegal activities or illegal downloads or message boards or whatever it might be. And that means that they won't be able to go to any website that is categorized as such. You're able to add exclusions. You're able to add custom websites as well to that list. You're also able to choose whether Acronis is going to manage your Windows Defender or your Microsoft Security Essentials. Vulnerability assessment is going to look at your various Windows or third-party applications and let you know if there are any vulnerabilities associated with any of those applications. And that goes hand in hand with patch management, which will then go and see if there are any updates or any patches for those applications and then apply them based on either your schedule or manual application. What you're able to do as well here with Acronis is before applying that patch, you can actually run a backup of the device. So you can say, well, I want to run a backup before installing the software update. If anything goes wrong in that software update, you can then roll back to that latest backup. Data protection map is the ability to look at certain document types like .doc files, .xls files, are being saved in any locations that don't have a backup plan associated. As an example, maybe you're backing up a folder C data and the users are saving their documents on the desktop. What this will do is it will identify that those documents of those types are being saved on the desktop where they're not currently being backed up, and then ask you if you want to create a protection plan to back up that location as well. Device control is the ability to block or allow certain devices within your environment and on your network. So as an example, if I want to block any USB devices coming into my network or any FireWire devices coming to my network, I can just use Acronis to do that. When we get to disaster recovery, what we're able to do is create a VPN between our local site and with our remote Acronis cloud site. There's two ways to do that. I've chosen a VPN appliance, but you can also use a VPN, open VPN, which will sit on each end user's machine. Once that VPN is up and running, and I like to kind of show this instead of just talking about it. So if we have a look at this, we can see that there's no response to that. So if we go and have a look at our servers, currently .12 is not responding. There is no machine sitting on .12. But what we're able to do with disaster recovery is each server or machine that we're protecting with disaster recovery, we're able to, number one, set its specifications. So I can edit what its actual configuration is going to be. I can edit what network it sits on. I can edit its MAC address. I can edit its IP address. I can even assign a test IP where I can test this backup in my live environment without affecting my live environment. If we have a failure, whether that machine was stolen, whether it was hit by lightning, whatever it might be, in fact, even if it's just something that we just need to run the backup, we've got the backups, we just need to restore that backup data. As we know, that takes time, and sometimes clients don't have time where they need to be operational, they need to be up and running. So with disaster recovery, what you're able to do is start this instance up in the Acronis cloud, where it is going to be provisioned for your local network. So you can see if we've had a disaster, this server is now no longer available on our network. What we would do is we would start that up in the Acronis cloud environment. This turns what would be a recovery of hours or days into seconds and minutes to be able to get up and running. So we can have a look at that console while that is starting up. We're starting up. As you can see, I know what I did. I deleted that backup data. So instead, let's go to one of these other servers and start that up. So as you can see, I get to choose which instance I'm wanting to start up. I can start that up, and that will then start the server up in the cloud and provision this for my local network, where my users will be able to use that data and use that server immediately. That gives me time to get that server up and running. Once I'm ready, I can then restore the data from this cloud solution back onto my local environment. As we can see, it's busy prepping this. I can go look at that remote console. I can see that it's busy starting up. While we're waiting for this to start up, let's just go and have a look at what my IP is. This gives you an indication where if you have an error, if you have a problem, you're able to actually immediately get back up and running and not have any disruption in your day. What's important to note here as well is this entire system is able to be fully automated. So you can actually add heartbeats and monitor those servers. So you can monitor a heartbeat and then execute a start command. So even if you're not in front of this console at the time that you have a failure, you're able to get up and running immediately. Obviously, from your anti-malware and antivirus side of things, you're able to check the quarantine. So if it's picked up any viruses or it's picked up a false alarm, then if there's any items in the quarantine, you can deal with them, delete them, or recover them. Patch management, so you can get an idea of what patches or what vulnerabilities may exist. So over here, you can see a full list of the different vulnerabilities, and I can just go here and click that patch button, and that's going to then apply that patch to my machine. You also have a full software inventory. This is very cool because you can actually get an idea of what software has or has not been installed on the machines within your network. You can see here where on my personal machine, Zoom was uninstalled, WhatsApp was uninstalled, but it's going to give you an idea of all applications that are running, especially if there's any applications that shouldn't be running on your network. If you have a look at the SQL Server, you can get an idea of what applications are running there. And then recovery. So when it comes to recovery of any data, Acronis is completely granular, which means if I now want to go and recover data, I can go and either run this data as a virtual machine, or I can recover the entire machine, or even just files or folders. If I'm wanting to recover a specific file, I'm able to go into that backup, deep dive, find the file, and just recover that file within my network. That is the Acronis solution.